third mantra, he said, those well established in the Vedantic wisdom, Vedanta Vijnana Sunishchitarthaha, those well established in Vedantic wisdom, those ascetics, they attain the state of pure sattva. Again, description of an unknown through the known. The state of self-realization is unknown, is described through the known terms. The known terms to us are the gunas, the sattva, rajas, and tamas. So description of the unknown self is described through the known gunas. So the pure sattva means self-realization. Pure sattva refers to the formless reality. When the sattva is pure, it doesn't have any individuality. You have transcended the gunas. A human being is a combination of the three gunas of sattva, rajas, tamas. So the impurities of rajas and tamas along with sattva creates an individual. I repeat, the impurities of the rajas and tamas along with sattva creates the individuality. But when the individual strives to remove the rajas and tamas in him, and when that rajas and tamas is zero, and when it becomes 99.99 sattva, which is pure sattva, thereafter it can't sustain itself. And that's the point where you are said to have transcended the gunas. It becomes trans sattva. So the term Shuddha Sattvaha, the pure sattva, symbolizes the state of trans sattva, which means self-realization. Just like any piece of gold jewelry, it has that intricate design, it has a name and a form. Name and a form means nama rupa. The Sanskrit word for name and a form, nama rupa. It could be an anklet, it could be a bracelet, it could be a ring, it could be a chain, it could be any form with different characteristics. What is it that gives the gold the name and the form? I think I should strictly confine this question to the ladies. Amitama, how well versed are you in gold?
Not well versed at all, sir.
Oh, not well versed. Okay. So will you say it a pass?
Yes, sir. Yes.
No, you can be as knowledgeable as me and still answer the question,
Okay.
which is no knowledge. So you are on safe grounds here. So the question is, what is it that gives a name and a form to gold?
The design or the application of that particular ornament, is it?
You are You're missing the point, Ma. Missing the
Sorry,
point.
sir. Sorry, sir.
No, don't have to be sorry. What I'm trying to connect is the initial explanation of the gunas to that which forms the individuality. And then I took an example of an ornament which has a name and a form. If you heard that little I spoke, you will find the answers there. In that the answer is very well embedded in what I've said. It's just taking an example to establish or substantiate what I'm saying. That's all. No problem. You said you're not able to. All right. US. I knew she was expecting me to ask.
Yes, Guruji, I knew I was the next one.
Oh, is it? Okay. Perfect understanding between the student and the guru. Yes, ma.
No, when the gold mixes with other mineral, other sub minerals, I don't know whether what are the other combination to gold that gives it the form.
Even I don't know what is mixed with it, but something else other than gold. When something other than gold gets into gold, it is called yeah.
It is called unpure gold.
Slight English correction, impure gold, right?
Impure gold.
So when anything other than gold gets mixed with gold, it becomes impure gold. Example, you could have a next proportion of gold in silver. It's still impure silver because there is something other than it. So what gives a name and a form to gold are the impurities. The pure form of gold has no form, formless. You can't make jewelry out of a purest form of gold. Impossible. So purest form of gold is formless. Exactly the same way, the purest state where you are in pure sattva, you transcend the individuality. You attain the formless state. You are no more the form or the jiva, what you are. Amitama, now you see the point? Wonderful, yes.
Yes, sir.
You see the
Yes.
point. So it's the impurities of Rajas and Tamas.
Yeah.
So since we talk of this state of pure sattva, we have mentioned at some point, what is the hierarchy of evolution with reference to gunas. So the lowest spiritual state is one who is predominant of tamas. So a person who is tamasic is the lowest amongst the spiritual seekers. Superior to tamas is, Hariji, if you can just capture this so that people don't miss that, if you're in a position to capture it. Perfectly. So the lowest is tamas. Superior to tamas is a state of rajasic rajas. I'll explain myself. Superior to tamas is a state of, now I'm talking here of the predominance, a predominance in the person. If the predominant tamas, he's the lowest. Superior to this is rajasic rajas. Superior to rajasic rajas is sattvic rajas. It's all about combination. That's all it is. Lowest is tamas, superior to tamas is rajasic rajas, superior to rajasic rajas is sattvic rajas, superior to sattvic rajas is rajasic sattva, rajasic sattva, then comes pure sattva, and then it is trans sattva. Trans sattva is self-realization. So I repeat, it is tamas, then it is rajasic rajas, sattvic rajas, rajasic sattva, pure sattva, and trans sattva. Right. Now, a person who is in a state of inaction is tamas, is lowest. Okay. You can also say a person who is reveling in the senses, indulging, is a tamasic person. All right. Now, a person who is into action, but he is in a frenzy of rajas. So there's a difference between rajasic rajas and sattvic rajas. Now, how do you differentiate this? Rajasic rajas. Now, who is a person who is rajasic rajas? Shantima, does it strike a chord?
Hari Om Guruji. More prone to action, Rajasic, Rajas.
Yes, as I said as well, it is more prone to action. Tamas is more prone to inaction, indulgence, etc. But how do you further qualify rajasic rajas? Otherwise, it's very vague. What do I mean by rajasic rajas? No idea?
Yeah, always like, in a mundane activities without purpose.
A person who is a rajasic rajas
Running
is
behind the world.
running behind the world, very right. He is a materialistic person. This is the definition of a materialist. A person who is materialistic is rajasic rajas. Very good, ma. All right, very good. Thank you. Now, Harish, superior to this is sattvic rajas. Now, when you say sattvic rajas, there is injection of sattva into the state of rajas. Am I right to say so?
Yes, Guruji.
Now, what is your understanding of a person who is sattvic rajas?
Hari Om Guruji. My understanding is the person is still prone to action, but with a higher purpose and a higher goal. Maybe slightly less selfish, but still has an agenda, but slightly less selfish. There's a higher goal for that individual.
You're very right. In philosophical terms, what would we call these people as? going exactly what you said. You're spot on in your explanation. But what would be the spiritual term for them? Perhaps would you not call Rajasic Rajas as extroverts?
Yes.
So Sattvic Rajas are the introverted people.
Introverts.
But the term I'm looking for is other than this. Just giving you a line of thought. What would you call them as?
I'm not sure, Guruji.
No problem. Anybody? Lakshmi Ma?
Trying, Guruji. Aggressive good?
Ma, we have not, just think in the lines of what terms we have used. We called Rajasic Rajas as a materialist. We have called them extroverted. Sattvic Rajas we said are introverted. They obviously would be the spiritual seekers. As Harish said, they have a higher purpose. What would be the term for spiritual seekers who are seeking spiritual path? What path are they seeking? Again, I keep telling, just to ensure you all are very clear, that the methodology is to make you think, is not to challenge your understanding or test how much you know. That is not the objective. Sometimes, we take it for granted. This methodology is not adopted, just to make you think. Think along, Lakshmi Ma. Yeah, Subhashri Ma. Huh?
It is called Satvik Ahankara in Sanskrit.
Sattvic Ahankara.
Means
Where did Ahankar come here, Ma?
no, it is like the Vairagya part, not Ahankara, Guruji, sorry. The Vairagya in the mind that, everything has to be like perfectly done and without any selfishness. And it is very close to Mumukshatva also sometimes.
I think you're just bringing certain terms which may sound out of context. Vairagya and Mumukshatva may sound out of context, but I know where you're coming from. You're trying to paint a picture of a spiritual person who has Mumukshatva, who has a certain amount of dispassion. You're right, but it doesn't, that's not the terms I'm looking for, one who's in the spiritual path. Okay, but your thinking is right. All right, Ma. Okay, very nice. Setuji, like Hariji says here, you can call them the yogis. There you get a cue from there. All right. Yes, Setuji.
Yogi and unselfish.
So the question is, what is the spiritual term you give to those who are in this phase of Sattvic Rajas?
Seeker or yogi?
So we are talking about tamas, inaction. Rajasic Rajas is action to gain materiality and sensuality, indulgence. Then we come to Sattvic Rajas. We said these are the introverted people, the spiritual seekers. Now, what kind of actions are they performing?
Karma yogi.
Yes, these are the people who are the yogis. Now, what kind of yoga they perform? They are divinizing their actions through karma yoga, bhakti yoga, jnana yoga.
Satta has prompted me.
I could hear that. Suddenly she disappeared and she prompted you. Vasantama, sometimes you should help me also. I am also lost without answers at times. நீங்க private எனக்கு message அனுப்புங்க answer சரிங்களா?
No, Guruji, I had to get up for something else.
So it was very timely. So along the way, she gave a tip to Setuji and came back.
I don't know,
You're
it was
right.
spontaneous, I couldn't hold.
No problem. So you're right, very true. They are called the karmi, the bhakti, bhakta, karmi, bhakta, and the jnani. So the practitioner of karma yoga are called karmis. The practitioner of bhakti yoga are called bhakta. And the practitioner of jnana yoga are called jnani. So in terms of the seeker and the path they adopt. So what they have, the difference between rajasic rajas and sattvic rajas is a sattvic rajas person has injected sattva. Injecting sattva into action means they are divinizing their action. Simple thing like you're putting a tilak on your forehead, you're divinizing how you present yourself. The moment people see, they look at you as a spiritual person, isn't it? And one who goes through this phase of sattvic rajas gets to the state of rajasic sattva. So it's predominantly sattva, but there are elements of rajas in it. When we say sattvic rajas, it's predominantly rajas with elements of sattva. Am I right, Hariji, by using the terms in terms of combination? Could you repeat what I've said, sir?
Said that sattvic rajas is still predominantly rajas with elements of sattva.
Yes.
Rajasic sattva is predominantly sattva but with elements of rajas.
Correct. So in terms of proportion, you could say it is 80-20, 20-80.
Or in other words, what is the adjective and what is the basic noun or whatever verb or whatever it is.
Correct.
So what qualifies is the one which comes first.
What qualifies is that comes first. Perfect. So rajasic sattva, you could say that person is 80-90% sattva, 10-20% is rajas and tamas, is other gunas. Sattvic rajas is 70% and 20-30% is sattva. Rajasic rajas is 90% your rajasic. Tamas is 90% tamasic. And when you reach a state of pure sattva, after that, it can't sustain itself because any pure guna can't sustain itself. So you transcend the guna. So those ascetics who are well established in Vedantic wisdom, they want to reach that state to become that pure sattva. And how do you attain this pure sattva? Vedanta vijnana sunischitarthaha sannyasa yogat. So the cue, the mantra gives sannyasa yoga, the yoga of renunciation. So you attain that state of pure sattva through the yoga of renunciation. Kashish, if you just split the terms, sannyasa, yoga. Sannyasa is renunciation. Yoga is yoga. So he says you attain that state of pure sattva through sannyasa yoga, the yoga of renunciation. Now, what are the two words that you understand here? So this is the path. So this is the path, Kashish. This is the route you take to get to pure sattva, right? Yes, please.
Are you asking what my understanding is of renunciation yoga, Guruji?
Yes, the yoga of renunciation. What do you understand when you hear these two terms?
It makes me think of what you mentioned in previous sessions about dropping the lower and grabbing onto the higher.
Very good. Absolutely. So what is that which talks of picking up, and what is it that talks of dropping?
It's detachment slowly, which there's a term for it. Vairagya?
Absolutely. Yes. So vairagya is renunciation, is dropping the lower. Yoga is attaching to the higher.
Mhm.
And the simplest example that can be taken to understand this is when you're climbing a flight of stairs. What do? Only when you put your right foot firmly on the higher pedestal, you take your lower foot off, isn't it? And then you put the left foot on the next pedestal and take the right foot off. So it is that way you scale a flight of stairs. You scale a mountain, you go upwards, isn't it? So the path is attachment to the higher, detachment to the lower. And write down this term. You very well recall sannyasa is renunciation, is vairagya. Now, what is the term for attachment to the higher? Vasantama.
Not getting the word. I said tapas.
Tapas. Not really. Close, but not really. UK.
Is it the word yoga, Guruji?
Yoga is the union with the higher, but what is that term? Like sannyasa, we told vairagya. What's the word for yoga here?
Not getting the right term, Guruji.
No problem. RM?
Guruji, is it Vedanta Vijnana Sunishchitartha? He's so rooted in Vedanta and Vijnana wisdom. Would that be the answer?
In fact, we are trying to understand sannyasa yoga. He's just mentioning those who are established in Vedantic wisdom attain sattva through sannyasa yoga.
Having faith.
Huh?
Having the faith in Vedanta.
We are not talking of Vedanta. We're talking of sannyasa yoga. We're talking of these two terms. Now you're bringing terms which is beyond the context. Faith is not in the context. So sannyasa yoga, sannyasa is renunciation, is vairagya. Now what goes along with vairagya?
Viveka.
You got the cue from your husband. We don't accept all this. All
No, I don't
husbands and wives and husbands are helping each other. This Reddy Garu, this is not allowed. Very, very unfair. This is,
I didn't see it, Guruji. I promise
I
you.
know. No, I have no faith in you. Going by what you said, using the same word, faith, I have no faith in you. Hariji, please don't do that in the future. How can you give answers like that? In fact, you're spot on, Hariji. The term for yoga in the context is viveka. Viveka, what is viveka? Reddy Garu, you know what is viveka? SR.
Yeah, Viveka is intellect.
Viveka is discrimination, buddhi, the intellect. Here, viveka means knowledge. So knowledge of the higher, assertion of the higher, and the denial of the lower. This is the path you got to take. Constantly keep asserting the, how do you assert the higher? With higher knowledge, isn't it? A man without knowledge is nowhere, isn't it? Even in a worldly life, we say a person who has no knowledge, has no skill, doesn't find a place in life, isn't it? He doesn't make something of himself. But the moment you have knowledge, you're a man of substance. All right, sir. So Viveka refers to knowledge, intellect, wisdom. In that line, you can say, which is assertion of the higher, and denial of the lower is vairagya. So the lower wishes, desires, the lower rajas and tamas has to be discarded. Therefore, we always told viveka and vairagya go hand in hand. Knowledge and denial must go together. I know you all are receiving this knowledge. I do not know what you are denying yourself of. Are you following, SR?
Yes, Guruji.
Denial of the lower.
Denial of the lower. Like we talk about in the learning is leading.
Learning is?
Leading. And the
leading.
Leading. That's the how to lead life is purely comes from the learning, continuous learning.
Yes, yes. But here we are specifically talking about denying, sir.
Denying of the lower.
Denying means dropping of the lower.
Dropping the rajasic and the tamasic gunas.
Gunas or qualities or desires or attachments. Because what's the point of having mere viveka without vairagya?
Perfect.
In fact, I would go to the extent and say a true guru sees the spirit of vairagya in his shishya, not how much viveka you have. I could be able to mesmerize an audience. People will flock to my halls because I have a charismatic personality. I could be a great orator. I could tickle the audience because I am an orator. But that is no tool to measure how spiritual you are. So vairagya is what a guru sees in a student, not viveka. Let me get that right. Viveka is not really a measuring tool, but vairagya is a measuring tool. But yet we need viveka and vairagya like two pedals in a bicycle for your progression. So without vairagya, this knowledge is useless. No use. So it just sounds perfect the way the third mantra. Harish, something to share?
No, Guruji, I just thought that the pedal example was so apt, because the one pedal doesn't go up unless the other one is pressed down.
And he's a professional peddler who is talking about it. So Harish is a pro. Every day he does 30-40 kilometers every day. So it struck a chord with him. And the moment I said peddling, he understood sannyasa yoga. Till then I could see no expression on his face. Oh, very true, Harish. Very true. Very nice. Yes, that's how it all falls in its place. Maybe before what it's worth, I think we should just chant this mantra once before we go on to the fourth mantra. And I think, Harish, I've just noted, I think you have a document which went through a certain correction because the Sanskrit text was jumbled up with reference to the third and the fourth mantra, so it's all right. But can we have that Sanskrit? Actually, the first line of mantra 4 is the concluding line of mantra 3. So that correction is required. I think Gayatri Ma had made that, and that was not communicated to you. That's all right. But can you just go one slide back, sir, please? Yeah. So this is the first line, and the second half of which is appearing in the fourth mantra is mantra 3. Okay. So let's chant. Pare nanakam nihitam guhayam vibhrajate yadhyatayo vishanti vedanta vijnana sunishchitarthaha sannyasa yogadyataya shuddha sattva aha. Sannyasa yogadyataya shuddha sattva. All right. So this is mantra 3. Please